You're listening to Pro Community, a Socius podcast, the show where online community meets business performance.
Welcome to episode number 12 of Pro Community. I'm Josh Paul. With all of the information out there about online communities and social media, this is the show where online community meets business performance. You can see all of the past episodes of Pro Community at socius.com, where you can also subscribe to the show in an audio podcast format on iTunes. I'm very pleased to have with me today Barton Goldenberg, founder and president of ISM, one of the pioneering firms in the area of customer relationship management. Along with being an entrepreneur, Barton is a popular author and speaker on the current trends and the future of integrating sales, marketing, customer service, and social media. He's the author of several books on customer-driven strategies, including a new book called Social CRM that will be out later this year. Welcome, Barton.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Josh. Nice to be with you.
Thanks for being on the show. One of the reasons that I'm so excited to have you on the show today is that as I talk with companies and as I write about online customer communities, one of the concepts that resonates the most with executives is the idea of customer relationships, strengthening customer relationships, maintaining customer relationships, and finding new dimensions to customer relationships. And the way I want to kick off this conversation is really hear from you and your 27 years of experience. How did we get to where we are today with the concept and the practice of customer relationship management, where many companies have a online community at the center of their CRM strategy?
Yeah, so it's a historical path that we've been on. CRM started as Salesforce automation back in the 1980s, and then we added the whole customer care component to CRM in the late 80s. In the early to mid 90s, we added the marketing automation component. In the late 1990s, we added the whole e-commerce or the E initiative to CRM. In the 2000s, we intelligence to the suite. And all of this is, to me, a natural progression to what happened in the last 5 or so years in the area of social CRM, which really was a natural effort to now take the profile of a customer in terms of what we've done with them from a selling perspective, or from a customer servicing perspective, or from a marketing automation or e-commerce perspective, and what we know about that customer. All of that was terribly important. That was a huge growth over from 85 to 2005, 20 years. But what was missing from that profile was the emotional or sentimental side of how that customer enjoys doing business with us, thinks of us as a partner. And so what happened is, when the whole digital era began to blossom with both private and public communities, it was a natural progression to say, okay, let's harvest or scrape relevant information from what those same customers say about us in private and public communities. Let's bring that emotional or sentimental side into our current profile of sales, marketing, customer service, and business intelligence, and let's marry the two sides. So now we have all of the transactional, somewhat static information from our CRM system. Let's bring in the dynamic or emotional and sentimental side from our social community. Let's marry the two inside the customer profile that sits in our CRM system. And now when we approach a customer, or for that matter, a customer approaches us in our two-way dialogue, it's a whole lot more dynamic because we've married the transactional static with the emotional sentimental dynamic, and we just have a better way of selling, servicing, and marketing customers because we're in the know.
So it's not necessarily that the fundamentals of CRM have changed. It's really that the concept and the practice have evolved to include more data just because the technology is caught up and customer behavior has caught up in a way that lets companies do more with that data.
Yeah, Josh, I would agree. So a couple of data points. CRM remains the core of any successful customer relationship management effort. Customer experience, customer touch point, moments of truth. All of that is housed within good customer relationship management. What the social side has done is, first of all, you can't have social CRM without CRM. So if you don't have a profile of a customer and know a whole lot about them, adding the social component, nice to know, doesn't really, in my opinion anyhow, doesn't add a whole lot of usable value because one day I might like you and one day I might not like you, but if I marry liking and disliking with your actual transactional history, I got a pretty good understanding of when I should be approaching you, when I should not be approaching you. So the social side is nothing more than a new channel, a new opportunity to engage with a customer, potentially through a social channel of their choice. But again, it sits on top of an effective CRM system. That's why I define social CRM as bringing the social content of the social side of a relationship into your existing customer relationship management efforts. It's not, you can't do it alone. It's not something magically new. It's a logical progression of bringing in that social side of the customer into your CRM efforts.
Now, where is the social CRM industry right now? It was very hot a couple years ago. I'm hearing less and less about it, but I know the companies that are putting it into practice are very successful.
Yeah. So this is a good and tough question. So let's talk players and then let's talk where the industry is at. Because social communities are hot, everybody feels that it's important when you are dealing with a customer to have either public information, their LinkedIn or their Facebook or whatever handles and address are appropriate. They think that's important. Those that have private social media communities built on the Lithiums or Jives or Mazingas also feel that it's very important to have insight as to what the customer or prospect might have said in the private community. So nobody denies the fact that the social is the channel of choice for marketing and where people are reaching customers. So the question became, let's say 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago now, how do we integrate that social insight into our CRM system? So here we go. The CRM players said, oh my, we better take our existing CRM system, go out to the social communities, public for the most part, somewhat private for those that did it, and figure out how to harvest information into our CRM system. So that meant they now had place for, Facebook or LinkedIn or various handles that the customer might have. Maybe a little bit useful, not terribly useful. It wasn't necessarily being filtered as it needed to be, but it was the beginning. And at the same time, social media platform players, for example, Lithium, I remember it distinctly, went to CRM Evolution in New York from CRM Magazine and said, hey, we're a CRM player, when in fact they were really a platform for social listening and setting up private communities, really not customer relationship management, but they wanted to kind of move into the CRM space where they could create a profile inside this social platform, whereby, again, we could now integrate the social side with the CRM side. So we got a mishmash of players, CRM players wanting to go out to social, Salesforce did it, Pivotal did it, SAP did it. Lots of companies are doing it now, the CRM, traditional CRM players. So they have ways of going out to various, again, for the most part, sometimes private social communities and harvesting or scraping relevant information and bringing it in. Infor kind of broke the grounds a little bit further in the last few years from a CRM vendor where they really have a customer engagement model. And how that works is they say, okay, let's listen to private and public communities. Let's filter, so using the listening tools, Radian 6 and others, let's filter the information based on what we want to know and hear. Let's bring it down into the CRM profile and enhance the profile for both transactional information that currently exists in CRM and now enhance it for the social insights that we gather by listening to public and private communities. Let's then analyze the overall, what we're hearing from our customers in our CRM system. That's the business intelligence. Let's segment and or give unique messaging back out to our customers in the channel of choice, and that might include a social channel. So Infor has made a big leap. I've worked with them and others on this area, and then there are customers that have made a big leap. So one of our customers is Marriott Corporation. They're looking very carefully at how do we leverage the social insight that customers say about Marriott on, again, public and private communities, so that we're more attuned to be ready to address issues as they come in through the web or through the contact center or direct to the hotels and so forth. So we have the CRM players wanting desperately to go out and gather information from the social communities, gather social insight. We have the community, the platforms that create the communities, the Jives, the Lithiums, the Mazingas, trying to go in and claim themselves to be CRM players. So neither party is doing it brilliantly. As I often refer to, this is a new ball game, and we're in the early innings of that ball game, which is why there was a lot of evangelistic hype 2-3 years ago, which you alluded to, Josh. It quieted down because now companies are actually doing it, or the CRM vendors are realizing, can we do it? The platform vendors are asking, can we do it? And then people like myself are working with some of the world's best companies to do it. And sometimes it's not always clean. So, for example, one of the largest global manufacturers worldwide has said, listen, we have members of our community that are very actively involved talking to one another about this particular product, its applications, and how it should be applied. And this is an industry oil and lubrication client of ours, one of the world's largest. And so they have lubrication engineers talking to one another on the particular community. And now the question is, how do we harvest that information and bring it into their existing CRM system so that sales reps and or distributors around the world are actively using what I call social insight? Well, the listening tools exist to listen to what people say. I think the figure is less than half of the people that are actually engaging social listening tools are spending more than $100 a month. So they're not listening well, but there are some that do listen well. So we have listening tools, but not everybody's listening effectively. We have filtering tools that allow us to say, I only want to filter on these keywords or this pattern. Again, they're reasonable, not outstanding. The example I always give is my commute in my Toyota stinks. Well, is it my commute that stinks, or is it that the Toyota stinks because they're close by? So, the whole filtering is less than optimal, but getting better. The ability to take that social insight that's been listened to and filtered, drive it down into the CRM system through APIs or other such tools, again, in an immature state, but getting better. And then the ability to analyze once it's in the CRM system to do good business intelligence and market segmentation and come out with unique messaging to engage customers. It is a work in progress. So the industry is now beginning to settle down. We work with many very well-known companies, not in philosophically talking about this, not in evangelizing it, by golly, making this happen. So we've built, just as an example, we've built multiple communities for AAA, the American Automobile Association, and their counterpart north of the border, the Canadian Automobile Association. This is actually happening today. The sites are up and running. They're 3-4 years into it. They're harvesting information. It's being fed into their various CRM systems. It's being used when the AAA member calls a branch of the call center or is on the web. So I'm of the belief, Josh, that the evangelistic period is over. It was, as always, overhyped, underdelivered, but not as bad as CRM was in the 2000. And now what we're doing is we're settling down. The CRM vendors are in the saddle, trying to become more socially integrated. The social platform vendors are trying to become more CRM sensitive. And then the ISMs of this world, my companies, others, are saying, let's just make this happen, because it speaks a whole lot louder when you can talk about examples with returns than talk about the art of the possible.
And I think that's a good deep dive into kind of where social communities are intersecting with customer relationship management strategies. Going back to the hype, I think social CRM is going to continue to be under the radar for this reason. The social media is one of the most widely written about areas on the web, mainly because the barrier to adoption of public social networks is so low. And when you start, putting the rubber to the road and talking about actual business results and CRM strategies, the people who have experience in that area and access to experiment in that area become a lot fewer. And even though companies are going to be making it work and companies are going to be driving the return on investment, you're going to continue to not hear about it on the top 50 marketing blogs. And now, one of the things that you talk about, extensively is that, this isn't, getting away from the hype and really focusing on making money and ROI. This isn't just for fun. This isn't just for hype. This isn't to build a name for yourself or anybody else. How can a company go from, I've heard about this, maybe we'll try it, to we're going to make this a central part of our customer relationship strategy?
So good question. So you're right. We are obsessed with starting out with metrics as to what we're expecting from the community. And I think, not to sound unnecessarily strong, it's absolute hogwash that somebody would venture into the social or media or social CRM space without a very clear set of metrics well in mind long before they ventured in. I've heard my distinguished colleagues, analysts, friends say, hey, listen, Bart, you put your toe in for 6 months, you see how it goes, and then you look at metrics. I'm completely against that. You set your metrics from the moment you're perceived to want to be in this space. And here's why. The whole social space, you can spend a boatload of money, a boatload of time without seeing results. You can also spend a boatload of time and a boatload of money with seeing some very impressive results. So you have to have a very clear understanding of why in the dickens am I getting involved in this social thing. You have to understand, what are you asking for in return, and then you're going to create an engagement plan, private or public, that allows you to realize that return. And to me, that's the only way to do this, and that's the only way we do it with every single one of our customers. By the way, that's true for the CRM side as well as the social CRM side. So let me give an example. AAA said, or the American Automobile said, we have a, I think it's a public figures, but in excess of 50 million members in America, the largest private member-based company in the world. And they said, listen, we know a whole lot about, how many times we tow their cars, or what travel, where they bought from us in the stores, or what vacation trips they've taken, or what insurance they products buy from us, or what financial services they buy. We have a lot of that, and it's housed in a variety of different ways inside their CRM systems. But how do people feel about us, and could we generate more loyalty? Could we generate additional customers if we had, for example, a community that said, this is the cruise community, and every time somebody used AAA to go to a cruise in Alaska, came back, was encouraged to participate in this community, talk about their experiences. We put subject matter experts or forums up. Would that help drive more people to the community, and would that help drive interest by both existing members that have gone on a cruise, take a second cruise, and would that help newcomers to AAA or newcomers to cruising think, oh, well, I guess if they did it, we could do it. So the key point on this was there was a direct linkage from the outset as to why this community was created. And the goal was pretty straightforward. The goal of AAA was to take the existing member base and sell additional products to them. So they talk about Member Product Index, MPI. And if we have one service with you, you're a member, then use it for towing, that's good, but we know that your renewal rate is going to be lower than if we have two products with you, towing plus vacations. And we know it'll be higher renewal, but it would even be higher if we got a third product, life insurance or car insurance, or we got a fourth product, financial information, we got a fifth product, travel services. So the objective of AAA from a business perspective was, let's drive up the MPI, the Member Product Index, and have you as a member use more products. Well, how do we know, how do we do that? And what we do is we know which customers are currently using which products, and we may reach out to customers, let's say, that aren't using cruises or travel service, that show a profile that looks like they're a type of travel customer. We'll invite them to a travel forum, so or a cruise forum, or a cruise discussion, or a subject matter expert blog or whatever's appropriate in that particular case. So AAA from the outset said, we have an understanding of what our members purchase right now. We know a lot about our members in terms of what they do and don't like, what they've said they want and don't want. We do third-party overlays and better understanding our customers. So we have an understanding of, we have technographic profiles of our members, who's likely to join communities. We put all that knowledge together and said, okay, we're going to create a community that is going to allow us to invite potential or existing members, even potential prospect members, to our community, because the objective now is to drive up the MPI, the Member Product Index. And there was a specific number that was used to drive up the MPI. So we defined clear success metrics from the outset of this initiative, and we linked it directly to the AAA business goal of driving up the MPI within the, in the member base. Very importantly, Josh, we then linked the entire social CRM, in their case it was both private and public communities, to their CRM system. So right from the outset, after we had linked the community to the business goal, right after we had defined success from the outset using clear metrics, we then tightly integrated that social effort into their CRM. What do I mean? We began to figure out, how do we take the information, the social insight, as I call it, coming from the communities, bring that down into our CRM profile about the member, such that the next time the member called, we can say, oh, hello, Ms. Smith. Thank you very much for being a AAA member for this number of years and using these services. We saw you on the community and you were very excited about the whole upcoming cruise. I thought we'd like to talk to you about an upgrade on your berth or a new availability. And so they began to, think about how do we, right from the outset, how do we closely integrate the whole social side into our CRM efforts. And different clubs within AAA, are more successful at doing this than others, but it's top of mind, if you want to call that. We also integrated those communities into other marketing programs. So again, the social is one channel in a marketing toolkit, if you want to call it that. So we closely integrated social such that it was seamlessly integrated with outbound emails, with outbound direct mail campaigns, with on the website, promotions. It was all closely integrated because social is but one channel. So while we're promoting channels, let's promote social. And we also found out that certain customers preferred to use social channels as their channel of choice. So we made sure we, focused that effort down the social channel of their preference. We drew upon existing organizational resources that was in tune with this whole social side. So we didn't take, we took the young kids that love to do social and actively involved in the project. We used them as subject matter experts. They badged themselves accordingly as a part of AAA, as a part of the community, but they got discussion going. They got the threads moving. They got, they helped the community be successful. We also reached out and leveraged AAA partners. So AAA has the Show Your Card and Save mode, where some of you know, there's, I don't know how many, but dozens and dozens of partners, whether it's Hertz or others that they have relationship with. And we said, hey, listen, we're creating communities. Would you like to participate? They brought in their members and various, successes on that partner relationship, but we extended to that to help promote cross-partner member relationships. And then, as you would expect, Josh, we made the community successful. So we actually set up these communities. One of the things we do, we design and CRM strategies, social CRM strategies, and social media communities. So in the case of AAA, years ago, we worked with them and still do on designing and implementing CRM strategy. Now many of the clubs are ready for the social CRM and the social media component. So in that particular case, we monitored one of the AAA clubs communities for several years. In one case, we're still doing that. And what we did is we were very careful to monitor the community, multiple times, make sure that the threads were clean, that there was a quick response time, that there was an engagement, that we responded quickly to community input, that we broke up threads and discussions as appropriate, that we had a calendar of subject matter experts that were coming on the system, that we chose things they were passionate about, automobiles and travel. And then we were very careful to use what we call an integrated social media strategy, whereby we would take the public Facebook AAA sites, entice people to come down to the private community and get them more integrated, intimately involved with AAA, because we felt that was a better way rather than having on a big open forum. So to answer your question, it's all done with a very clear picture from the outset as to why are we doing this. That's the linkage to business strategy. Setting clear success metrics from the outset. What are we expecting? Then making sure that we link that, if you will, to existing CRM programs. That's the integration of social insight into the CRM profile. We acknowledge social as but one of the marketing channels. Therefore, we integrate it with other marketing channels across fertilization. We draw upon existing resources, particularly those that enjoy the whole social space, to help monitor and or badge them as employees actively involved in the community. In the case of AAA, we leverage partners where it was appropriate, third-party partners, and then we played that all-important role after we got the community designed and up and running. We then played the critical role of monitoring it carefully, responding to the output or input, very regularly, and then making sure that they were picking areas that they were passionate about, in their case, cars, travel, and a few other areas. And then we used that integrated social media strategy where we took public interest, brought it into a public social media interests on Facebook and elsewhere, brought it down to the private community, and opened up the more intimate conversation with either existing members and or potential. I hope, Josh, that kind of gets to you.
It does, and there's a lot of points there that align with exactly the way that we at Socius write about and talk about and help our customers utilize social channels, both private and public. I mean, one of the big misconceptions is, why can't I just do this on Facebook? And we really talk to them about how public social networks have a role, but when you're building value for your customers and your community is an extension, your private community is an extension of your product offering with, supercharged with business intelligence, that the public social media really just becomes a channel. You're utilizing that reach to drive people back to your private community. The other thing I talk about is, online communities, online customer communities bring customers, employees, and partners. I'm glad you brought up partners. They bring them all together for the success of the customer and the satisfaction of the customer, and in turn the success of the company.
Josh, let me just comment on something you said, and I think it's a couple of things are very important.
Yeah.
So, public versus private communities. I'm still quite astonished how few know about private communities, but that's more and more knowing. But most people think, oh, well, I'll just put up a Facebook page and I'll be, have my social community. There's some, we understand why people do that. When you have 900 million people that are on Facebook, you think, well, I'll probably reach who I need. But the bottom line is there's a couple of things. First of all, you don't own the data on Facebook. I mean, that's their data. And if they change the rules, you're not in control of policy in public site. If they change the rules on the data or what you can and can't do, you're at the mercy of what's going on at Facebook, and that has happened multiple times. But very important, the concept of intimacy in a community is also very important. And when there's 900 million potential people listening, including every single one of your competitors, you're going to lose a certain amount of honesty, integrity, seriousness. It just takes on a different meaning. So, and there's one other thing about those public communities. Rarely are they a destination to drive somebody to buy something. Increasingly that's happening, but it's really not a destination site. So I alluded to something that we created, I'm going to say 2005 or something like that. We call it the integrated social CRM strategy. And what it does is it uses what we call a hub and spoke system. So the hub is your website on which your private social community sits, or from your website you outbound to a in the cloud community, but it's your website and the community are linked. And what you're doing that's the hub. The spokes are the Facebooks, the LinkedIn, and various other communities that are relevant to your particular topic. And what you're doing in the hub and spoke model is you're using Facebook and Twitter to drive traffic from the public communities to your website, to your particular community. And then once they're on your community, you can have much more intimate discussions, subject matter experts. Sometimes they're by invitation only, so not every competitor can join and listen in. You might have, special sessions for specific types of customers. All of this is building that customer intimacy, which is so important in long-term customer relationship management. When you have those private dialogues, again, within reason, and the industry's not quite figured this out, but you are going to harvest relevant information, with member permission, without member permission. You have to figure that out. Each company does it differently. Bring it into the CRM. And now we can talk to a customer through the channel of engagement that they want. But what we've done is we've integrated public and private. And so the thinking, at least from our side, is you use Facebook and Twitter and everything to generate interest, but then you use those tools to drive traffic to your private community, to your website as a destination where they can purchase, complain, etc.
No, I think you're right. I think private customer communities really bring the dream of social CRM to fruition in a lot of ways, especially for, we see it a lot in B2B companies where people think of, they don't move forward with social CRM because they think they're collecting data on Facebook and Twitter and then having to have the infrastructure in place to, to respond via those channels. While that's important, bringing, the larger 900 million people into a community of 1,000 customers or even 30,000 customers allows you to listen. They're there with a purpose. They're not talking about their grandkids' photos as much. You don't have to sort through as much, but allows you to listen better, respond more proactively, and it's a microcosm of the larger social networking ecosystem.
I'm glad you've raised the B2B issue because that troubles a lot of people, and it's going to trouble a lot of people for years to come. Everybody says, well, that's a B2C play. And, you have to go back a little historically. When marketing first came out with the Ben Shapiro's and various folks from Harvard Business School in the 1950s, marketing was applied to the consumer marketplace, the B2C first. And then over time, people said, well, wait a minute, you can still segment the B2B marketplace. You can still come up with unique pricing and products and life cycles and promotions to B2B just as much as you come up with B2C. But marketing took its first hold in the B2C world. Procter & Gamble, Lieber, Nestle, these are all, people that were all B2C and started it. You take the same, let's just zoom it forward 50 years, and you have the same situation in the social CRM space. It started out largely B2C, and you can go to Amazon.com and Zappos and Barnes and Nobles. It all was a B2C play initially. But let me make something very clear. It's just as relevant to B2B as it is B2C. It's just like in marketing in the 50s, B2B kind of was second in line, and for very good reasons. I mean, it had to be proven first. But, at Volvo Construction Equipment, which are the tillers and the various road graders and various heavy industry equipment that's being used on and off road, they've created certain social communities where the guys in their cabs or the guys in their trucks are as actively talking about what's the coolest vehicle and cab or truck or off, piece of equipment as anybody's talking about the latest Zappos shoe or the latest Amazon offering. And they have just as much a need to talk to one another as do my ExxonMobil customers when you have an engineer talking about fuel or lubricants as somebody else, just as you do my craft customers, business owners that own a restaurant or chefs inside that talk about, what they want for good tasting food or what's demographic shifts in the market or how do you run a successful restaurant. These are not end customers that are buying food. These are not end people that are buying that are using the oil. These are B2B, and they have as much a need to talk to one another. And the Crafts and the ExxonMobils and the other types of companies have as much a need of harvesting that information and utilizing it as a part of the customer experience, the whole CRM process, as does any B2C. So it's just as relevant to B2B. It's just that it's a little harder to do.
I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree, and it's a lot of times the value proposition is easier to lay out in a B2B community than a B2C. It's hard to if you're looking at a community as an extension of your product strategy, to something to extend what you actually offer your customers. that is built on helping your customers solve problems. So,
Yes.
and the problem that a Zappos shoe solves is a lot harder to build a community around than the problem of helping somebody do their job, excel in their career, get answers to help them get home and have dinner with their families each night. And that's what B2B communities thrive on. We will, bring customers, employees, and partners together to help you, the customer, be more successful. And they also have more time during the day. If they're working 8 to 10 hours a day, that's when they're focused on solving those problems, and that's when they have more time to dedicate towards participating in a community. Whereas you're competing for a lot more with a lot more priorities in the B2C world.
I completely agree with you. We're on the same board. By the way, one other important point about this public-private. Public communities, Facebook, Twitter, and so forth, to a large extent, that's a branding game. So one of our customers is Zumba Fitness, which, is a real growing brand that is taking the world by storm. So the public communities, for them and others, really are a branding, an image and a branding place to build discussion.
And it's also a reach play.
So it's a brand, it's a reach, and I was going to mention one other one, that is content play. So new content that they want to bring out to make people aware of something that's new. That's very important. So call it a reach, call it a brand, call it content, and public plays a very important role in that. I mean, I don't know what it is, but I think it's 10 million Oreo cookies fans on the Oreo site. So, something new about Oreo, which I think celebrated its 100th birthday. That's a piece of news that you want people to talk about. So that's public communities. But what you want to do in private communities, Josh, and you've already alluded to this, that's where you become much more intimate. That's where you have potentially subject matter experts. That's where you have people sharing stuff that they really like to share about, cabs or restaurants or engineering, lubrication for engineering factories and premises. So each plays a role: content, reach, branding on the intimacy, insight, harvesting on the private. It's not either or, it's both, and that's why we call it this integrated social media strategy, because when we design and build communities for our customers, we take both into account. They're both an integral part of the success.
Absolutely. Now, when you talk to a lot of executives and social business professionals about this, do they get it? Are they? What kind of reaction are you getting from the upper echelons?
So this is a work in progress, and I'm being as polite as I can. For senior executives at an Amazon, at a Zumba Fitness, at a Zappos, at a Nike, many of these are customers of ours. They get it. Why? Because that's the game they're in, and they understand it. They understand they have to be visible on all channels for customer engagement that their customers go to, and all of their customers go through social and other related channels. So they get it. They get the importance of it. They may not get what you have to do, but they get the importance of it. So I have lots of these customers listen, and the problem is they don't necessarily know what to do with all the stuff they've got now that they've listened, how to integrate into CRM, but it is top of mind. And now the question becomes, again, bringing it down to the ground, pragmatic, engaging companies like ours and others to really bring that insight into a usable format that they can have. Now, and I would say that is, Josh, 20% of the world. There's another 50% that says, I heard about this. I don't quite know how to do it. There's a lot of risk that we're going to get our name out there and people are going to say bad things about us, then our brand will be ruined. So I'm a little concerned. Yet I understand the digital era and how many people are Gen Ys or millennials and how many, smartphones are using social and so forth. I get it. I just don't know how to do it. And they're hesitant. For those customers, we bring them through, at least in our case, we bring a very structured approach on the steps that need to be taken over a period of time. We get a community up and running, and we make it work. And little by little, it happens. Sometimes you start with an internal community before you go to the external community. There's different stepping stones, if you will, to make that happen. Sometimes it starts with an executive briefing on what companies in their industry have done successfully and what to watch out for. But there's a 50% chunk that when you and I have this discussion in 5 years' time, half of those will come across to the social side. So they're customers in waiting, if you want to call it that, but hesitant, and show it to me, and heard this is all magical and mystery, and can you make money, and is it going to hurt our name and brand? There's a whole bunch of questions on their mind. That leaves the 20% that are right in the forefront, banging away at this. There's 50%. It leaves another 30% right now, anyhow, that say, listen, don't need it. Absolutely don't need it. Been very successful in this business. We work for a very large global investment banking company. I've met with board members and many of the senior executives. It's like, Bart, we have a very successful business. We're dealing with very important financial people that have millions or billions of dollars of assets to play with. We're not about to open that up to people that talk to them and talk in communities. These are private information. Don't have any desire to do it. Appreciate it. Sure that supporting other people is just not important to us. And I would argue that probably 10 to 15% of that 30 will come across in the next 5 years. So your typical bell-shaped curve. But right now, executives, the vast majority of executives are asking that 50% in the middle are asking, so how does this work, and what are the risks, and how do I mitigate risk, and what's the 10-step approach, and how do I strategize, and what's this integrated strategy? Talk about public and private hub and spoke, and can I do it, in a pilot for 2 months and see if it works? No, you can't. You got to do it long enough to build a community. Just a whole bunch of questions being asked. But again, there isn't a clever executive that has risen to the top of an organization, Josh, that doesn't appreciate the wave of the digital client that's behind this and the need to play in this game. The big question is how.
I do think that customer communities are the future of customer management, and they're going to play a larger and larger role in marrying the behavioral data with the demographic and transactional data. I wrote about that the other day on the Associates blog, where CRM in the past was demographic and transactional, just pretty straight data. And now to be able to bring in the behavioral data, show me all of the customers who have not logged into the community in the past 6 months. That's a certain profile. Show me all the customers who have registered for this event or have submitted a product idea. Those are people to treat differently. So what are the companies use this data in all sorts of different ways. They use it to upsell and increase retention. They use it in product innovation. How are you seeing, what are the most popular ways that you're seeing companies use this data in their CRM system?
Yeah, so again, a good question. Appreciate it. I got some issues here, so I want to try to frame this up properly. The number one way right now is in the customer servicing field. And as you know, Salesforce.com went out and bought Radian 6. They've got a very tight integration between listening to the Radian 6 consoles, pulling out tweets or various, inputs from social communities, determining whether that's important enough to carry directly across into Salesforce.com Service Cloud, from which they can open up a case and resolve it. Infor has done the same thing. Pivotal, CDC has done similar, working on. There's lots of vendors that are doing that. So we're seeing a definite a customer service play from social communities. And again, I think that's good. You've heard all the stories, and we all know them, of communities supporting customer servicing for a company, driving down costs substantially. All that's very important. It's pretty well advanced, so I think that's good. There's been a whole lot less on both marketing and sales. Now, sales, there is a good application. It just hasn't been fully thought through, and that is the lead generation process. Because properly done, communities can entice the types of individuals that fit the profiles that a company would have as an optimal lead profile. And so now the question becomes creating a community, understanding the profile you want on that community, doing your homework, technographically profiling either existing customers and or prospects to bring them into the community to try and germinate and create discussions from that community, and then to bring them into the sales pipeline at the top of the funnel and try to, drive them down through the funnel to closure and become a new customer. Now, service applications in the social field are far more advanced than sales applications in the social field. While service is important in that it drives down costs, while service is important that it may drive up loyalty, while service is important in that it may help members want to, enjoy being a part of the community, the big bucks are not in the service side, the big bucks are in the sales side. So in order to really gravitate towards a big user adoption of the big ears of the 80% that I talked about that are either in the middle or skeptical at this point, not doing it, this has to cut across to sales. And I believe lead management will be one of the more critical areas. So that's one thing. The other application, obviously, is the whole marketing side. Here, again, it's being used tremendously for understanding who is, part of the community, what is their profile, marrying behavioral with demographic, with social behavior, and better understanding who you should be segmenting, who you should be going after, creating unique messaging to specific segments, to specific customer groups. And again, Infor is, I think, leading the pack in that way from the CRM side. But there are lots of people that are really beginning to explore the whole marketing side. It would be my observation, if you'll allow me to stretch the marketing a bit and move over to e-commerce, that we're going to begin to see more and more community activity on the e-commerce side. And that's the ability, if you will, to create that two-way dialogue such that customers can come into the company, ask questions, query things, order, whatever it may be, and communities are going to play a critical role in helping the customer to have that two-way dialogue with a company. We're not quite there yet, but that's the next big boom, in my opinion. So just to summarize, Josh, customer service today, will check that box, is very active. Sales, I think, underrepresented today, but big potential, particularly on the lead side. Marketing, moving quite along quite nicely, still having quite a lot of companies, in both CRM vendors, social media platforms, and customers haven't figured out how to use that social insight to segment and or analyze and then come out with unique marketing messages down the right customer engagement channel of choice by that customer. But again, moving along in a nice way. And the next big boom on the whole e-commerce side, where you're using social as an intermediary between customers and businesses as a part of that two-way dialogue.
And that's interesting, the e-commerce play, where, anywhere where a customer has questions is an excellent place, and I could definitely see that happening. So I appreciate you laying out that roadmap of kind of where we are in different business cases. So to wrap up, I have two more questions. So I'm the executive who wants to take advantage of of social CRM using a private customer community. What are some of the common challenges that I might expect to run into, and what are some things I can do or some knowledge I can gain up front to overcome them?
Yep, again, you're asking all the good questions. To the challenges. Why in the dickens are you doing this?
I love that question.
What's in it for the customer such that they would be enticed to participate? What's in it for you such that it would pay for the cost of getting involved? Do you have an engagement plan that's been well thought out? Not that we'll build it and they will come, but we'll know who they are, entice them to come, and we'll build it over time. Because the success of a community is not what I as a business do. It's getting the community to become self-generating, where members talk to members or customers talk to customers, and our job is to, if you will, facilitate those, initially the dialogues and so forth, and keep the community clean and proper, but to harvest and use that information. So one of the challenges, have you thought through the engagement plan? Who should be invited to participate in the community? What does their profile look like? Can we get to them? How do we entice them to belong to the community? What contest polls and other, tools are we going to use to get the community moving in a good way? So the whole question or challenge is a proper engagement plan. Have you got people within your own company interested such that they can, as I alluded to earlier on in case of AAA and others, be badged and actively participate, and in some cases drive community spirit, drive dialogue and various forums or threads or blogs, whatever may be appropriate? Have you thought about how you're going to monitor and do the whole community monitoring and engagement? This is a critical success factor. Communities don't happen on their own. They must be carefully monitored. Do you have a monitoring team in place? Have they thought through the social calendar to bring about new subjects and topics to the community on a regular basis? Do you know when a thread gets too big and break it up into a second or a third thread? Do you know when to close down a blog because it's losing steam? Do you know how many minutes between a particular response to a question, how quickly that needs to be in order to sustain interest? There's a whole bunch of monitoring tools that need to be put into place. Is the metrics been set such that we are monitoring on a regular basis so we can conclude in 6 months, 12 months, 1 year, 2 years, yep, we hit our mark, but we didn't hit our mark? And all of these are challenges that the executive has to deal with. But again, if I had to sum it up, and it's just because for 27 years we have linked technology to business strategy, so that's our bias. Why in the dickens are you doing this? And you could, typically you want to come up with a pretty good reason. I've penetrated existing channels. So we work with Nike, for example. Nike's done a very good job penetrating wholesalers and stores and their own stores. And the question was, is this a channel we can get to additional people, additional customers at a low cost to serve or an optimal cost to serve? Is this the right channel? So there's a strategy behind it. Why are you doing this? Because it makes business sense to do it. This is not a game that I'm going to try social to become smart. That's just a waste of time, money, and effort. So linking it tightly to business direction, setting the metrics on the way out, getting the engagement plan right, understanding why you're doing what you're doing, getting the people involved from the outset inside the company, making sure that you are carefully inviting those that are likely to join. Everybody knows the statistics. You have, 1,000 members or 100 members, really one to five are driving the community, 10 are actively involved, but 90 are just listening. So you got to know how to play the game, then you got to monitor the heck out of it, make sure you're really taking care of it, building on areas that are enthusiastically being bubbled up within the community. Sometimes communities will go in directions you don't even expect, but you got to roll with the punch because it's their community, not your community. And then really making sure that you close the loop by looking at the metrics and seeing that you've made your money. Every one of those, Josh, is a challenge. It faces every executive. We have tremendous pleasure in working with the executive team and the implementation team to address each and every one of those through a structured methodology that brings us down to a step-by-step what we need to do successfully.
And I think we've brought the conversation full circle back to the understanding that this is about making money, saving money, ROI, and that we actually turn away a lot of customers who don't have a answer to that question. Why are you doing this? Why would your customers participate in this? That's not a technical question. It's not a platform question. It's not a technology question. It's a basic business strategy question.
I'll tell you one story if time permits, but I did a speech at Gartner's Customer 360 conference in Florida earlier this year, and I actually did a couple, and one of them was with my distinguished customer, Macmillan Publishing out of New York City. Everybody knows Macmillan as a very well-known publishing company. Look at the challenge they had, and look how social become a part of their overall strategy. So like the music business, like the book business, they were facing the same challenges that many are, and that is, will the community disappear? So I meant the record business. So, who's buying records in a record shop anymore? And the answer is very few. Well, who's buying books in Barnes & Nobles now? And the answer is less than used to. What happened to Borders? Had tough times. You're Macmillan, and you're committed to various genres in publishing, romance genre, mystery genre, whatever it may be. And you're trying to figure out what book should I put out on the marketplace that are going to attract my customers to buy more of my books? Well, you could go to Amazon.com and say, hi, I don't really know my customers very well. Could you tell me who's buying my books and give me a profile, and I'll do the third-party overlays, and I'll begin to segment. We can do research and figure out what they need and come up with authors that will write the books. But that's Amazon's secret sauce. They're not going to give that away to the Macmillans of this world. You can go to Borders and say, could I have that information? And Borders says you could have, but you can't anymore. You go to Barnes & Nobles, they have some information. But the bottom line is, my friends at Macmillan were looking, at what happened in the music industry was going the exact same way as was going in the, in their case, the book industry. So they cleverly worked with them carefully, created some enhanced strategies that said, something? We better understand who reads our books. So by opening up social sites by genre, the mystery community, Tor.com, the romance community, and so forth, we began to invite customers, both Macmillan and otherwise, to these sites. We began to have fun with them by having the author of books reveal the first chapter on this site versus in the public, or invite them to a coffee at the local Starbucks when the author was in town, or find out what they really want to hear about and what's romance, are they really important. We began to use the communities as a vehicle to understand what was important to the members or to the customers that read the Macmillan books. And whereas they started with very little, I'm not going to give you the figures, but they're way in excess of, they're in the millions. We now have a base against which, from the communities and from the work that was done, to begin to segment and understand the members, to use the communities as vehicles to offer up certain new ideas and concepts, to capture the information that's happening in the community, bring it back inside the profiles so that we could market more effectively to them. Here's the classic integration of business strategy and social CRM and social media communities, Josh.
And you're going to see, you see it in B2B and B2C companies, where rather than trying to insert yourself, trying to interrupt, trying to get some love from the established industry channels, communities allow companies to become the industry channel, to move the center of gravity of the industry and where the action, where the activity, where the content is, to their own company. And I think that's going to be, we're going to see more and more of that.
What company can risk getting out of touch with the end customer because they rely too heavily upon distribution channel members to figure that out themselves? Those days are gone. It doesn't mean you're going to cut out the middle channel. But, in the case of ExxonMobil, one of our customers for many years, or PepsiCo, one of our customers for many years, they all face a similar thing. Kraft Foods, same thing. Many of our customers, the distribution channel is still the way they bring product to market. I mean, Kraft Foods sells its macaroni and cheese and Philly cream cheese and all their products through the Cisco's and U.S. Foods and so forth. That's the distribution channel that visits all the local restaurants and operators in various places where you eat food. But Kraft needs to know what's the temperature of restaurants, what's the temperature of the chef, and all the way down to end customers for that matter. So, how could they risk depending on Cisco or U.S. Food to know what's going on at the end customer level? Similarly, ExxonMobil works with some of the very best distributors around the world, but, is the distributor totally in tune with market shifts, and could Exxon rely upon those distributors only? Now, ExxonMobil is loyal to the distributors, but they're also clever enough to want to listen to what the lube engineer or the ultimate customer is saying. So it's not an either, it's a both. Either or, it's a both.
And I agree. And so to wrap this up, you speak to a lot of groups and a lot of business leaders about CRM, social communities. What is the most important takeaway that you want executives to walk out of the room with when you give a speech?
So as Johnson & Johnson, one of our customers, and the president of Italy on the consumer side said to me, his name was Giorgio Belloni, he said something to this effect. He said, Barton, I'm 63, I'm going to retire in 2 years, can I duck this social effort? And I said to him, Giorgio, you can't duck it because this one ain't going away. And this is something that you have to accept in the next 2 years. If you haven't mastered this, quite frankly, you're putting your own business at risk. So this is not something that again, you conduct or goes away. This is something that is new. It's challenging. It's not easy, but you've got to get your horns around. You've got to get your hands on the horns and drive this very important initiative. Number one, that's one message I want to pass. Number two, you got to do it in a structured manner. This is not something you jump into and try it and fail. That's worse than doing it, not doing it at all. So work with, companies like ours or others that will give you that structured approach, that have done it before, that integrate it tightly into the business strategy, the CRM efforts. That's very important. And then just to understand that what we know today, Josh, in terms of how to do it well, it's going to dramatically change in the future. So stay abreast of this, whether it's a center of excellence inside the organization or through, attending conferences or subject matter experts like myself. You've got to stay on top of this game because, did Amazon.com think the world was going to look like it does today 5 years ago? And the answer is heck no. So those are the messages I'd like to leave. It's not going away. You can't duck it. Make sure you're tightly integrated with strategy, with clear metrics, but make sure you have a structured approach to make this happen. There's no half pregnancy in social media. And then make darn well sure you're staying on top of the game as an executive by, using various conferences, subject matter experts, whatever channels you use to make sure you are leading rather than finding yourself flat-footed as the community takes on.
Well, Bart, I want to thank you immensely for your time and your insight and sharing your experience today. This conversation is going to be very useful to people across the business landscape. And I hope we can do this again once your social CRM book hits the bookstores and flies off the shelves.
It'll be my pleasure. And thank you for asking great questions. And if anybody feels we can help them, needless to say, it would be our great pleasure to offer our services to new customers. So thank you, Josh.
So before we go, where can people find you on the web?
So you can find us on the web at www.ismguide.com, Information Systems Marketing, or ismguide.com. Or you can always use a good old telephone, call 301-656-8448, or you can get us on Facebook or Twitter. That's all very available.
Perfect. And as always, you can find all of the past episodes of Socius' Pro Community podcast and web show at socius.com. It's also available in audio podcast format in iTunes, where this show will be published as well. We appreciate 5-star ratings and good reviews in iTunes if you like what we heard today. Bart, I want to thank you once again, and have a great day.
Thank you, Josh. Appreciate it.